We've been hearing for months now about how jazzed Joe Biden is about talk of him becoming FDR 2.0. And in pursuit of that lofty goal, he is dramatically scaling back his legislative goals. And in terms of his budget, like stuff he has entire control over, it's gonna be a shadow of its formerly weak self. White House officials have left key Biden campaign promises on healthcare out of their coming budget proposal, as the administration focuses on trying to pass what it has already introduced, according to 4 people briefed on the internal matter. So what does that include? Well, they've jettisoned months of planning from agency staff, as their initial plan could fuel criticisms that the administration is pushing new spending programs too aggressively. The budget will not include his campaign pledge to enact a public option to create a government-run health insurance program, or his pledge to cut prescription drug costs. There's a lot of other non-healthcare related stuff that it also is not going to include, but those are kind of the major ones. And look, I assume that we are probably going to be pretty critical of it, but I do think that we should launch into those criticisms with a bit of understanding, because they have laid out why they need to do this, because they might be criticized.
Oh, I didn't see that coming.
I mean,
okay, well now, John, I'm glad you gave that context, because I didn't know it was that serious. Okay, all right, so let me start, and I'm curious what Ramesh thinks. So I do want to give you all the details of all the great programs that he proposed, and we told you he would not do, and we were right about. So canceling student loan debt, not gonna happen, not a dollar of it. Forget the 50,000, forget the 10,000, not a dollar of it, okay? Increasing the estate tax on literally billionaires, the richest people in the country. The estate tax does not apply to you if you have an estate. First of all, if you have an estate, come on, who has an estate, right? But like, I think under $5 million.
Compound, but
yeah,
state adjacent.
Sure. So the richest people in the country dodged the bullet, or at least their family members did, because by definition they have to be dead to estate tax to apply. Okay, so why you wouldn't do that? It doesn't make any sense. If you're being criticized for overspending, well, that creates revenue. But because it isn't about that. It's about Republicans and conservative Democrats saying lay off our donors. Okay, then you move on. Then you've got the healthcare ones that John mentioned. Look, there's also not lowering the Medicare eligibility age, which he said he would do. And if you remember, there was a conversation about, it's okay, Biden is not for Medicare for all, we lost in the primaries. That's definitely true, and I want to come back to that in a minute, right? But he's gonna lower the prescription, he's gonna lower the age for Medicare eligibility, and that's a good first step. And after the Obamacare, there's a steps 2, and then he's gonna do a public option, there's gonna be step 3. No, there was no step 2 or step 3. We told you, we told you he wasn't gonna do it, right? And so progressives in Washington are incredibly naive, and I'm being polite, okay? And so now we get to the heart of why not? Like, what's going on here? And so the reality is, so this is the different mindset that the Democrats have in Washington, as opposed to progressives outside of Washington, and that includes us, okay? So number one, in Washington, they're always playing defense if you're a Democrat. Oh, what will the Republicans say? Oh, no, the Republicans have said this. Joe Manchin has said that. We're gonna play defense. No, you play offense. So here's how I think about it. You propose all of it, and then when they say that, when they scream uncle, you say, okay, well, or they wouldn't scream uncle, but they'd yelp, right? Well, then you start negotiations, but now you're starting negotiations over here instead of over here. Okay, it's just so elementary. Anyone who's ever done any business deal would know that. And so you tell me all of you corporate Democrats don't know that, and none of your corporate donors know that, and nobody advising you knows that? Nah, you're just playing defense because you actually agree with the guys. So, and now to be fair and give you the other side, they say, hey, listen, we're already taking so much heat for the infrastructure bill, and we're not likely to pass it in the way that Biden wants. We want to do things one thing at a time, and if we get that under our belt, and Biden's already being popular, then maybe we could win the 2022 elections, the congressional elections, and then come back and do this in due time. We got 4 years. We don't have to do everything at once. That is just not remotely true, but that is the other side. It's not remotely true because you have no idea if you're going to win the 2022 elections, and you're a lot less likely to win them if you don't fight for anything.
Yeah.
And so that
means the
odds
went down with this.
Yeah, that means he might already be out of time. Okay, and so there's so much more to discuss, but one more policy thing before I go to Ramesh. The prescription drug prices, that's just political malpractice not to do that. And because everybody hates the high prescription drug prices, with one notable exception. The drug companies, which give tons and tons and tons of money, not just to Republicans, but also to Democrats like Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. Let's be honest about that. All right, Ramesh, your thoughts.
I'm deeply disappointed. I think we all can agree on that. In many ways, the reason why I'm often optimistic is I look for traces that can make me optimistic so then I can advocate and kind of gain energy around that. When Biden nominated Javier Becerra, who previously had supported Medicare for All, to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services, I saw that potentially as signaling to progressives that I take these things seriously. Every previous president, including President Trump, has called for lowering prescription drug prices. President Obama at various times described the public option as a realistic possibility. But in reality, unless we go for Medicare for All and start and end with that as the bargaining point, as the position that we take, there is no leverage whatsoever. And so this is obviously deeply troubling for me because it is clear that we continue to be corrupted by the medical insurance industry, by big pharma and the prescription drug industry. And at the end of the day, Biden and Harris have to make a decision. Are they going to have a clarified vision for the America that they believe in? Or is it merely going to be rhetorical with a couple bones thrown in? You can't really have a contrast with the fascist authoritarian right wing unless that contrast is delineated in a way that actually makes sense to people. There is no contrast at the current moment. And I think it's very, very important to recognize that Medicare for All, maybe not in language, but the actual policies it stands for are extremely popular amongst Americans. And so what we're seeing happen in here is negotiating against yourself. Perhaps you don't even believe in these things to begin with. And in so doing, you've compromised any sense of political clarity, and you've really turned on the progressive base that is the only base that has ideas in the Democratic Party today.
Yeah. So as I predicted, obviously we're pretty negative about it. So these are all cons that we're sketching out. I mean, the pro is that they wanted to avoid criticism, so he's going to dial back his aspirations, and at least now Republicans and right-wing media will be really nice to him, because he is doing the unity and the bipartisanship that they honestly want from him. And so now they won't call him a commie, Chinese, socialist, whatever. Like, they won't do any of those things. Good call, Biden. But obviously this is weak. I mean, some of it isn't weakness. When you're really doing what you really would want to do, you may be weak about it, but it's not truly weakness to pay off the people that you like. However, is there a possibility that his weakness is both a crisis and an opportunity? So earlier this year, they quietly announced, oh yeah, so the border wall, we're just gonna keep building some of the contracts that we've already got. And people got mad, progressives got mad, and so they backtracked on that, and they're not gonna do it. And then he was like, oh, we said we were gonna raise the refugee cap up to where it was under Obama. We're not actually gonna do that because the Republicans have been attacking us on the border, so we don't really wanna do that. And so people went crazy, especially Ilhan Omar, and then they backtracked. Mostly, we'll see. He was being incredibly weak sauce on the situation with Israel Palestine, and people got really mad at him, and it took a while, but he finally started to push for a ceasefire, supposedly. And then there was a ceasefire. So is it possible that we're getting this early look at what's going to be in there if progressives burn him to the ground between now and when it's released, that they will fold? They fold when the Republicans look at them. They clearly sometimes fold when progressives fight back. Can we get the last fold in our favor?
Yeah, no chance. So let me explain why I say that. So first of all, Biden is a classic politician. So he puts his finger to the wind, and back when when Washington was more conservative, he was draconianly conservative. Right now that the Democratic Party has become more progressive, he's become more open to progressives. And so there is a big difference between the Obama and Biden administration. That's real. The Obama administration was openly hostile to progressives, pretty much despised us, and told us to our face. Obama's chief of staff called progressives effing retarded. Okay, both of those, I don't know. You're not allowed to say either one of those words anymore, but they said them. And they said them not about conservatives, but about us, right? Not us in specific, although I'm sure they would have loved to have done that as well, okay? So Obama was openly hostile, Biden is not. The Javier Becerra appointment is a great point by Ramesh, that's right. And you say, oh, that's good, Ronald Klain, their chief of staff, much more open, way better than Rahm Emanuel. We can go on and on. So they're definitely open. And in politics, John, you're absolutely right. Especially a standard politician like Biden will test the waters. So he'll go, oh, okay, I'm gonna do this. Oh, no, look around, look around. Oh no, people didn't like that. Okay, I'm not gonna do that, I'm gonna do this, right?
So let's torch him.
So now why am I pessimistic about it? Number one, the list is too long. You can't have him backtrack on 5 major policy initiatives, right? So he proposes them, he backtracks on them. Now you want him to flip-flop on all 5. He ain't gonna do it. Okay, it's too big. Number 2 is progressives in Congress are very weak, very weak. I'm just being honest with you, right? So the leadership is super weak. So Pramila Jayapal is the leader of the Progressive Caucus, and Mark Pocan used to be and is considered, still somewhat of a leader. And Mark Pocan was great on Israel-Palestine. And I love giving credit where credit is due. Jayapal is fantastic in introducing Medicare for all. Are they gonna fight on all this? They're not gonna fight, there's no way. They'd have to politically burn down his house and go, what the hell is this? What is this?
Well,
but they're not gonna, they don't have it in them. I'm telling you right now. And look, people can catch all the feelings they want, right? Pramila Jayapal is not going to do that. It is not in her nature. She will tepidly write a strongly worded letter or something along those lines. But so this is in the budget, right? Budgets must pass. Here's how proof's in the pudding, okay? If progressives in the House, there's 10 just Democrats, let alone the others, if they say no to the budget, it's no. It does not pass the House. We have enough votes. We have plenty of votes. It's not a matter of being upset or writing a tweet. I don't really care that much about the tweets anymore, right? It's a matter of saying, no, this is not gonna pass. There's no way, no. We vote no, hard no, not even close, right? But will the progressives in Congress lead in that direction? I would be shocked. I would be pleasantly shocked, right? But look, guys, let me explain more. There's extreme wings, and then we get classified into an extreme wing, which we are not in, okay? So one extreme wing says, I want to do Medicare for all now. Now, Ramesh makes a good point. If Biden started with that would give him the room to do the public option, et cetera, right? But in terms of actually, if you're hopeful to get Medicare for all passed tomorrow, I love you, but that's never gonna happen, okay? That doesn't mean you give up on it. That means you build up to it and you do it in a practical way. And if you say, okay, well, we didn't get our top priority, the hardest priority, the one that Biden said 1,000 times over he's against, well, then I'm gonna burn down everything. No, hold on. But then the other extreme wing is way worse, okay? That extreme wing says, Biden promised all these things, they're super popular, but since he said no, let's all lay down right now. Oh, dude, blocking a vote, oh my God, we could never do that. But then, in the budget, there's so many important things in the budget that it wouldn't pass. It's called a must pass. Either look into it or stop patronizing us, okay? So it has to pass. The question is, are you at the negotiating table or are you not? And look, I'll end on this for now. The drug prices. It's the biggest layup in history. If progressives cannot block this budget on prescription drug prices alone, then you know they have no spine at all and they immediately need new leadership. I'm being honest with you. So, I mean, if they can't muster up the courage on something that has like 90% popularity to oppose Biden, that means, nah, they're captives of Biden and they're not gonna do anything for 4 years and we're gonna need someone new. So that's my take on it.
I totally agree. I think progressives need to really clarify what are the positions and policies that they will unify around and be a united front, because almost all of those policies are policies that the vast majority of American people support. The Biden approach or strategy, or perhaps lack thereof, is to try to be barely good enough for barely enough people. And in the meantime, rhetorically, try to please everybody. And it's not going to work, because at the end of the day, Medicare for all, you don't need to call it that, but advocating for those principles as a North Star will be the only way to reduce the costs of health insurance sufficiently so that we're even close to in line with the rest of the world. What people want at the end of the day is not a corrupt oligopolic market system, so-called market system. It's not even market-based any longer, that exploits people like Big Pharma and the insurance industry. People want real opportunities to be guaranteed healthcare as a human right. So I believe that as progressives, we have to really clarify what positions we're going to fight around, because otherwise we are just going to give up on fights and just grumble about it and continue to be sidelined and sort of grasp at these rhetorical bones that are thrown to us, and overall just be peeved and dissatisfied.
Yeah, look, Biden's weak. He just is. Let's just be honest about it. So if I was president, let's have a fun time dreaming about that for a second. Would I do all these things? Well, of course I would. Why the hell did I get elected president? And to me, if you're not proposing the policies that you care about, and you're not proposing them immediately when you actually have the best chance of passing them, that means you never really cared about them. You weren't driven by them. Like you'd have to hold me back with a couple of armies to not propose something to get money out of politics, right? But Biden isn't driven by any of that. He's driven by his ego, which is what most politicians are driven by. So he thinks, mission accomplished, I'm already president. All of these are gravy, they're nice to haves. Public option, it'd be nice to have it, but whatever, right?
Look, trying to get into his head, and this will be my last thing, they are pitching it as, we've already proposed so many things that are big, the American Families Plan, the infrastructure bill or whatever, that we don't want to jeopardize those things by going too crazy with the budget. And I get that I'm not an expert and I don't know anything, but I don't see how that makes any sense at all. Like, let's not do this popular thing because doing this popular thing will hurt us when we try to do this other popular thing. How is that supposed to work? Like, okay, I get that they may say strategically that it's gonna be hard enough to get Joe Manchin to sign on to the infrastructure bill. If we try to do that and this other stuff, then he'll turn against us. But when we know the answer, when are you gonna fight against him? The answer is never, but in theory, like, we are watching and have seen the effects of Donald Trump beating every Republican into submission for years, and he has benefited greatly from that. Biden could do that. Biden could attack Joe Manchin. He could send Joe Manchin running for the hills. He's the president who has a good approval rating already, who would be fighting against Joe Manchin to pass universally supported legislation, and not just amongst Democrats, but amongst Republicans too. That is a battle he should be eager to engage in, and then he doesn't have to pick and choose to maybe get the infrastructure bill or maybe get some things in the budget. He could do all of it with the progressives behind him, with hell, a lot of establishment Democrats behind him. Basically, we just need to turn against the worst of the Democrats. And it's not just Manchin, that's shorthand, but the calculations that are written in here in this incredibly attempting to be understanding Washington Post article, I just don't think any of it makes any sense.
They're all old school, no. They don't know anything, those people in media. And you say you're not a strategist, you're 10,000 times better strategist than anybody in Washington. You guys are forcing me to make a last point, but first, Ramesh.
Yeah, you guys are getting at the key point that right now is the time for all of us to act and for Biden to act if he's actually going to deliver on his sort of rhetorical promises, FDR 2.0. I really want to take this country to overcome these existential crises we've all been sitting through, Trump era and even before with the advent of neoliberalism. This is the time for us to really recognize that if Biden has the reconciliation card, he has Congress, and he has a stated set of positions which deeply matter to Americans. He's either going to act now or he's going to threaten his own viability in 2 years, and that's and in 4 years as well. And that's it. This is the legacy right now that is being written into stone.
Yeah, and guys, so people in Washington catch feelings all over the place when you talk in personal terms. So when I say Biden is weak, everybody in Washington will, they'll have their hearts broken because how could you have done that to Papa, right? But let's just keep it real. So here's what strength looks like. Yeah, of course we're gonna lower prescription drug prices. And yes, the government is going to negotiate the drug prices that we buy. We are the customers, that's how it works in capitalism. And if you don't like it, I love it. Republicans, please make the case for higher drug prices.
Yep.
Make that mistake, be that dumb. Go to the American people, tell them, no, we care about the drug companies and their profits. That is why we want higher drug prices. Make that case, I dare you to make that case. You would break them in half. You would win easily in 22 and 24. That is not hyperbole, that's not oh my God, that guy's on the internet, oh, he just likes to talk loudly. If you can't understand that simple concept, you suck at politics. And they actually don't suck at politics. They're working for their donors. Be honest about it, but no one in Washington is honest. No one talks about the corruption. And by the way, I'll end on that. Progressives, I love you, but you haven't mentioned one word about corruption. Not one word. Joe Manchin is lighting your policies on fire. Cinema's lighting them on fire, right? And you haven't said one thing about their donors. That's really sad. I was hoping you were stronger than that.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.